Good evening. I'm Patrick Hayes, and this is the Redeeming Life Ministries Wednesday night Bible study. Our church is located in Stanton, Virginia, if you happen to be watching this from a distance, and we would love to have you come and visit. This is part 3 on my talk about the Song of Solomon, also called the Song of Songs or the Canticle of Canticles, depending on what printed version of the Bible you have. I have taken this beautiful but mystic poem from the Bible and have interpreted it in the way it makes best sense to me. We're going to be putting the King James Version on the screen, but I'll be reading not the King James Version, but the St. Patrick version. I'm St. Patrick. All right. I call this, if you're looking at your folder, I've given everyone here a folder with all of this printed in it. I call this the Song of Songs, an operatic libretto in 6 scenes. Now, let me just explain yet again what an opera is. It is a play, a drama, that's a form of literary work in which all the words are speaking parts. There is no commentary or narration. Every line is someone speaking. Our problem when we read the Song of Solomon is sometimes we can't figure out who's speaking which line. Well, I've made some guesswork stabs at that. An opera is a play or drama in which all those speaking parts are sung. Since this is called the Song of Songs, it's meant to be sung. And in fact, in many Jewish traditions, it is sung every year in a performance. And I count 5, if you look at the first page, it's a libretto, which means just the printed words of an opera. So that's what Solomon gave us. It was in the Bible, a libretto of his play. I count 5 singing parts. You can read over that. I've already read it to you a couple of Wednesday nights ago. The star of the play is the woman Shulamith. And she has the most speaking parts. As the play opens, she's talking to the harem brides. Then there's the man she's in love with and who loves her, the shepherd. Then there is the knave. You know, in a deck of cards, you got 3 face cards for each suit, right? You've got the king, the queen, and the jack, or knave. In Spanish, he's not called the jack in a deck of cards. He's called el intruso, the intruder. Well, in this play, the shepherd is the true bridegroom. Shulamith is the true bride. And Solomon is el intruso, the one intruding between them, trying to keep them from being married. Solomon wants to marry the girl instead of letting her marry the shepherd. Then we've got another group, the brothers. These are Shulamith's older brothers. I figure that there to be about 5 or 6 of them. We're not told exactly how many. But they certainly do not want her marrying the shepherd. They want their younger sister to marry King Solomon so that they can now hitch their family up with nobility. There is one other speaking part by a group of men. We don't know how many, but they only have 1 line, so I didn't put them in this list. And these are some of Solomon's charioteers, or chariot soldiers, and they'll speak collectively in 1 line, a few scenes coming up. Now, if you turn to the page that begins with the word title, I'll point out to you that this is 6 scenes. There's only 1 act, but 6 scenes as I interpret this. The title is The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. Now, Solomon writes this, I think, even though he puts himself in a bad light. But as I explained last Wednesday night, or read to you my writings about it, I think Solomon does that on purpose, because the events in this poem brought him great wisdom. And he learned that he had been wrong and had taken the wrong attitude toward the girl and toward the shepherd, and he repented of it, and he derived a great wisdom from that experience, and then sat down and wrote this and said it's the greatest of all of his songs, the song of all songs. Scene 1 begins inside the king's harem in Jerusalem. The girl Shulamith is a reluctant newcomer there. She has just arrived. She's just been brought from way up north in Galilee down south to Judah and the great city of Jerusalem. She is wearing the rustic, unadorned, homespun linen gown in which she has just recently traveled. Her sandals are of plain goatskin. She's a country girl. On her neck is a simple cachet pendant that was given to her by a shepherd. She, as the scene opens, as the play opens, she's in the harem and she's been talking with the other harem brides. And as she begins to speak, she's already telling the eager harem brides about her true love, the shepherd from northern Israel. Now, this is a bunch of women. And all of these girls have been brought into the harem by their relatives who paid 1,000 pieces of silver each to have their daughter or their niece or sister married to King Solomon. I insist that these are not love marriages, but political or diplomatic marriages. And these are families that want to be allied to the king. Some of them are foreign girls. Some of them are Israelite girls or from local countries bordering Israel. But they live a life of comfort and yet restriction. They're now put into the harem. They cannot leave. They've each got a group of servants attending to her. If Solomon indeed has 1,000 of these diplomatic brides, each one of them has her own entourage. And so this harem complex is a kind of a second city, a diplomatic precinct outside of the walls of Jerusalem. This girl has been brought there. Solomon wants these other women to convince her. He can already tell that she's reluctant, as we'll see in the play. She's reluctant to his advances and his attempts at love-making to her. And she doesn't respond well to Solomon. And so he's had her brought and installed in the harem where he hopes that some of these women will convince her that it's a good thing to be married to the king. We have an interesting scene in 1 Samuel where David wants to marry King Saul's oldest daughter, Merab. And as far as I can tell, of all of David's 20 brides, Merab is the only one he ever really loves. He kills a giant for her. To win her hand is why he fights Goliath. He had already arrived on the scene, David had, and he said, "What shall be done for the man who kills this giant Philistine?" And his brothers and the other soldiers said, the man who kills this giant, the king will give him his oldest daughter to marry. Well, when David hears that, he says, "Howdy do, I'm going to do it." He's in love with Merab, and he will never get over his love for her. He does kill Goliath, comes to collect the reward, and Saul breaks his promise. He says, I've already given my daughter Merab, my eldest daughter, to a wealthy man, Adriel the Meholathite. And man, if there's anything I can't stand, it's, you know, you go off and you fight your battle and you get back and your gal is married to a Meholathite. That's just the worst. And that's what happened to David. And Saul said, but you can marry my other daughter, Michal. And David doesn't love her, doesn't want her. And Saul has to ask some of his servants to take David aside and convince him to marry Michal, which David does not want to do, but they talk him into it. Something similar is going on here. These harem brides have been asked by Solomon to talk to this girl and convince her it's a good thing to marry the king. Verse 2, we have in the King James, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. I've translated that to the girl. She's already talking to these women, and she says, oh, that his mouth were now kissing mine. She's got her eyes rolled back in her head. She's been answering their questions and talking about this man that she's really in love with. And she goes off, as young people will, and apparently they've kissed before. And she says, I wish I was with him right now and he were kissing me. She closes her eyes, imagining to be speaking not to the harem brides, but to her shepherd lover back in Galilee. And she uses the word you. For your love is sweeter than wine. Your name pours to my ear like the aroma of spiced oil. The harem brides say, oh, we virgins love you for this kind of talk. Shulamith says, verse 4, can any of you help me to escape from here? And the harem brides say, if we could, we would run away with you. Shulamith says, oh, but the king has brought me to these chambers. The harem brides reply, but we rejoice to have you here. Your love story is sweeter than wine. Rightly do men love you. Shulamith looks at them and says in verse 5, oh, you fair-skinned daughters of Jerusalem, whitened behind King Solomon's dark curtains. See my darkened skin? If you find me unlovely, it is only as the sunburnt tents of the Kedarites. Kedar was a son of Ishmael. His nomadic descendants later dwelled in parts of Arabia, and you can read about them in Genesis, Chronicles, Psalms, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, the Kedarites. They were a tent-dwelling people. She goes on and says to them in verse 6, please do not deride me for my tawny complexion, for I have labored under the sun's harsh glare. They nod reassuringly, and she resumes her story. Well, my mother's children, that is, my brothers, they were angry with me. They made me to be a keeper of their vineyards. She pushes her hair back, frowning, and she rubs some balm to her forehead and pats it to her cheeks. As you see, I have not kept my own vineyard very well. She closes her eyes now to recall, as if in a dream, her first flirtations with the shepherd. She's remembering when she first met this shepherd out in the field months ago. Tell me, Sir Shepherd, where you pasture your sheep and where you rest your flock at noon. Or would you rather that I should linger near the flocks of other shepherds? The shepherd in her memory speaks from off stage, but we, the audience, hear his voice. Verse 8, oh, lovely damsel, if you do not know, then follow the tracks of their flocks and feed your goats near their tents. But no, here, allow me to adorn you, my darling, like a festooned mare among Pharaoh's chariot horses. Ah, yes, behold your lovely wreathed brow. He encircles her head with a a little garland of flowers or a little crown he has made of a daisy chain. And your neck, here, now with this bejeweled string. He takes a string, maybe from off his neck, that has a little locket of scented herbs in it, and he puts it over her head. The harem brides look at what she's wearing, and they say, we can find you better jewelry, golden and studded with silver. Shulamith shakes her head and shows them the rustic pendant that she's wearing. When the king sat with me at his table, and she'll be telling this story of when she was at the king's table earlier. When the king sat with me at his table, he noticed the fragrance of this perfume. She fingers the pendant and sniffs at it. My soul lover gave me this, a myrrh-filled locket. I wear it at my bosom even when I sleep at night. This is my soul lover to me, a sachet of henna petals from the Engedi spice trees. Now, Engedi is a place in Judah, along a mountain slope above the Dead Sea, where grapes are grown, and it's also famous for its spice gardens. She knows about it. Now, a flashback occurs. We imagine this being done on stage. The lights go out. There's a minute while the scenery is being reset. The lights come on, and there is the shepherd and Shulamith. This is a flashback. This is months earlier. She's telling the story, but it's acted out for the audience's eyes. Verse 15, the shepherd says, oh, you are beautiful, my love. Yes, you are beautiful. Your eyes are like dove's eyes. Yes, you are beautiful, my love, and pleasant. Look, we have here a green bed. See, our house has a cedar roof with rafters of fir. He's sitting under trees with her in the grass, and he's laughing that they have this canopy of tree limbs on a beautiful day. He said, this is our house. Isn't this wonderful? Shulamith says, I am but one flower of the Sharon meadows, only one lily of a filled valley. Now, we've often heard it said of Jesus, he's the lily of the valley. You've sung that song. We call him the lily of the valley and the rose of Sharon. But anyone actually reading the Song of Solomon can see that this isn't said of a man, not said of the shepherd nor of the king. This is said of the bride, the young girl. And she's putting herself down. She said, there are many flowers in the Sharon meadows. I'm just one of them. Now, Sharon is a plain south of Carmel, over on the Mediterranean coast of Israel, between what will later be called Caesarea and Joppa. And it's famous as a place of shepherdry. And so she tells him, I'm just one flower of the Sharon meadows, only one lily of a filled valley. The shepherd says, the one lily among a bunch of brambles, that's what you are. So are you, my love, above all daughters. And Shulamith blushes and says, as this apple tree here among all the woodlands, so are you, my beloved, above all sons. They've each just complimented one another, saying essentially, you're one in a million. And the other said, no, you're one in a million. The flashback ends, and the girl turns to the harem brides and tells about it. She says, I sat delighted with him in the shade. We ate the sweet fruits he gathered. The forest overhead was our banquet house beneath a banner of love. She closes her eyes, remembering, feed me with raisins, refresh me with apples. Oh, I am lovesick. She hugs herself, a hand to her neck, the other one around her torso, imagining how it was to be embraced by him. Verse 6 of chapter 2, his left hand was under my head, his right hand embraced me. She opens her eyes suddenly and says, promise me, O daughters of Jerusalem, swear by all the does and stags of the field that you will not arouse nor awaken me from my love dream before it fulfills. Now, there are 3 times she will call these harem brides to make that pledge. Don't try to change my thinking. Don't try to wake me up from my fantasy that I'm going to marry this shepherd. It's going to be fulfilled. And swear to me by all the does and stags of the field, she says. It's very interesting. The does and stags of the field. This is wildlife. She's a goat herding girl. Her shepherd is sheep herding. They deal with domestic animals. But she looks at wildlife, and we'll see that again and again. All the stags, that's male deer, bucks, and all the does of the field, swear by them. She is calling upon nature itself to witness her undying love for her shepherd. We'll also notice that quite often the wild dove is spoken of. The tur dove. Tur is the call of the dove. Now, this is a dove that lives in the Middle East, parts of North Africa, and on up into Armenia and parts of Eastern Europe. It makes that tur call. The King James Bible puts it as turtle dove. But in Hebrew, the tur dove is considered a great symbol for lifelong fidelity. For this kind of dove marries for life. If the spouse dies, if the female or the male dies, the other one never mates again. The Canada goose also does that, among other birds. They marry for life. They breed only once. Well, they might breed more times, but only with their spouse. Never take another partner if the spouse dies. Both the males and the females of the Canada geese do that. So I'm saying that so you can observe it. If you look up in the sky and see a V of Canada geese flying, most often ornithologists tell us the leader, the one out front of that V, is a widower, a male goose whose spouse has died, and all the others follow him. Most often that's how it is. For the Hebrews, looking at the tur dove, it becomes a symbol for lifelong fidelity. This is who I married, and I'll never love another as long as I live. So she calls upon wildlife, the does and stags of the field, and later the tur dove. Well, they nod. In verse 8, she closes her eyes again and says, oh, the voice of my soul lover. She gets up and walks over to the window and looks out. Oh, he will come here for me, climbing over mountains, bounding down the hills. My soul lover, like a strong buck, like a fleet stag, oh, he will soon stand at this garden wall, looking up to these windows, peering through these lattices. Yes, my soul lover will call to me, saying, and we hear his voice in her imagination, but off stage, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away with me. For lo, she's imagining him saying this to her when he gets to Jerusalem. That's what he'll be standing in the street calling to her up at her window. For lo, the winter is past. The rains are over and gone. Flowers blossom on the earth. The time of singing birds is come. The dove's tur is heard in the land. The fig trees ripen green fruit. The fragrant vines bloom and swell tender grapes. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away with me. Oh, my dove, held up there in that rock cleft, up in the secret places of those stairs, let me see your lovely face and hear your sweet voice. The harem brides whisper, shh, speak quietly. Here there are sly little foxes who will spoil those vines and tender grapes of yours. In other words, don't talk so loud about loving somebody else, little girl. There are spies. Shulamith insists, my lover is mine, and I am his. Oh, he feeds his lambs among the lilies until daybreak, when shadows flee away. You might want to note that because it will be repeated. Feeding all night long until daybreak when the shadows flee away. She turns from and looks again through the window, and she's calling to him. Oh, come here for me, my lover. Be the antlered buck, the fleet stag, leaping the slopes of Bithron. Now, you can see the footnote, Bithron, also elsewhere in the Bible called Bether. It's a mountain range across the Jordan, reputed by some to be the same as Bethany beyond Jordan, or Bethabara, where John the Baptist baptized Jesus. She imagines him running toward her to rescue her from Jerusalem, just like a male deer leaping over the Jordan at Bithron. Well, she sits down and draws the harem brides closer to her, and she begins to tell of her dreams. By night, on my bed, this is chapter 3, verse 1, I dreamed of my soul lover. I sought for him, but could not find him. I arose to go through the streets, in the avenues, seeking my soul lover. I sought for him, but could not find him, she repeats. Then the city watchmen encountered me. I asked them, have ye seen him, the lover of my soul? A little while later, I got away from them. She shudders. The harem brides nod. In my dream, I found him, my soul lover. I held him and would not let him go. I took him to my mother's house, into the chamber where she had conceived me. She giggles then, along with the harem brides. They all giggle. Promise me again, O daughters of Jerusalem, swear by all the does and stags of the field that you will not arouse nor awaken me from my love dream before it fulfills. It's the second time she says that. Well, that's the end of scene 1. As the curtains close and the scenery behind the curtains is being changed for our play, and we all go out into the lobby to get a Coke and a box of Milk Duds before we come back in, we might be asking one another, what in the world was that all about? Well, that's what I call scene 1, what we've just read, from chapter 1, verse 1 down through chapter 3, verse 5. Any comments, questions, statements, revisions? All right. Scene 2, it is a flashback. The only person in this scene is the shepherd himself. This is a few weeks earlier, somewhere in northern Israel, near the Lebanon border. The shepherd stands on a high cliff, scanning the road below. The royal caravan approaches from the south. What is this? Coming out of the wilderness, making columns of smokes, smelling of myrrh, frankincense, and merchants' aromatic powders. So this is King Solomon's litter. 60 men surround it, the famed soldiers of Israel. They are well armed, experts in battle, each man with a sword at his thigh against night dangers. So King Solomon has made for himself a great rolling pavilion of Lebanon cedar. those silver pillars, those golden stanchions, that covering and curtains of purple silks. Within it is decorated to allure maidens, to make them daughters of Jerusalem. The shepherd has heard, of course, the whole country knows it, that Solomon's on his summer trip to go up into the highlands of the north. He's got this terrific pavilion on a platform. It's on wheels, and it's pulled by many mules or oxen, and on the platform is his royal tent. And so the shepherd has heard about it, and now he sees it. And he's also heard the scuttlebutt, the rumors that Solomon is coming looking for the best woman he can find, the woman his mother Bathsheba had told him, you must find the one woman whose price is above rubies. And the shepherd knows that Solomon's up on a foray to find the best girl. Somebody said, well, that wouldn't have happened. Well, it happened when Solomon was a young man. King David was an old man lying in his bed about to die, and he wanted somebody to lie next to him to keep him warm. He didn't want any of his former wives. He wasn't interested in them. And he sent Joab and the others out to hold a nationwide beauty pageant to find the most beautiful girl in Israel, and it turned out to be Abishag, and bring her to lie next to him in bed, a young woman and a very old decrepit man. It's kind of a sad picture. But that was done. And now here is Solomon on his own trip to find the most beautiful girl, and the shepherd knows it, and he's kind of scorning at it. Within, that tent is decorated to allure maidens, to make of them daughters of Jerusalem, that is, harem brides. The shepherd turns and looks to the north road. Family groups are coming from the north down to meet the king's rolling pavilion to present their daughters to Solomon. Among them are the brothers of Shulamith, bringing her, the shepherd's sweetheart. There are her brothers bringing her to meet the king. And the shepherd, standing up there unseen at the top of a cliff, looks down, and sardonically he says, yes, go ye all there, O daughters of Zion, to behold King Solomon. See the crown his mother brought to his brow for his many wedding days, to appease his insatiable passions. Scene 2 was rather short, just that one speaker, but he says a great deal in those verses. We now come to chapter 4, verse 1, and scene 3, I call this. And it is a flashback. This time the shepherd's not in it. It is that night, inside of Solomon's pavilion tent. He has chosen this girl, Shulamith, out of all others that have been brought to him, and has asked that she be brought in to his tent. There's a table with food on it. He wants to talk to her and get acquainted. It is night inside the king's pavilion tent, and guests are present. We know that because he will speak to his guests. Solomon is wooing the selected girl Shulamith with wine and suggestive compliments. Solomon says, behold, you are lovely, my dear. Yes, you are beautiful. You have dove's eyes peeking through those tresses. Well, those are the same things her shepherd had told her. You are beautiful, you are beautiful, you have dove's eyes. Now Solomon is saying it. So since two different men at two different times tell her the same thing, we believe that girl must have dove's eyes because they've both noticed it. Your hair cascades like a flock of goats descending from Mount Gilead. I'll read the footnotes on these place names later. Your white teeth resemble a flock of clean shorn sheep coming from the washing. Each ewe has borne twins, none among them barren. Your lips are scarlet yarn. Ah, your mouth is lovely. Your cheeks are pomegranate halves behind your tresses. He pauses for a sip of wine. Let me talk to you a bit about Solomon's love poetry here. Notice he's referring to symmetry. Same on one side as on the other. Your eyes, one just like the other. Your white teeth look like a flock of sheep, and each one has borne twins. Now, ewes or female sheep very rarely have single births. They most often will have twins if these are healthy sheep. Only, even more rarely, will they have triplets. The idea that your teeth are perfect, he's saying they're symmetrical. The line of your teeth is equally divided, and the one here is just like the one there, and so forth and so on. Perfect symmetry. And then her lips, perfectly like scarlet yarn, and her cheeks remind him of a pomegranate that's cut in half, and each one like the other. So he'll refer to that symmetry of her beauty. The idea that there's not a flaw on either side of you. He pauses for a sip of wine, but now he's moving down. Remember, he started with her hair, then her eyes, then her teeth, then her cheeks. Now he's moving down to her neck. Yet your neck is like King David's defended tower where hang the shields of 1,000 mighty men. Now this is going to be his complaint a few times. You're not responding to me. I'm telling you how beautiful you are, and you're just glaring at me. I can't get through to you. You're not even nodding. You don't like these compliments I'm giving you. It seems to me you're acting like you're on the defense, like my father David's defended tower. He nods and sips again, and his eyes move lower. Now this begins to get slightly pornographic, pardon me, in church, but this is Bible. Again, he talks about equal symmetry, this time concerning her breasts. Your breasts are twin deer fawns feeding at lilies. Until daybreak, when the shadows diminish, I will remain at this mountain of myrrh, this hill of frankincense. For you are all beautiful, my dear. There is no flaw in you, no asymmetry. Everything is perfect. I'm looking at it. He pours more wine to his cup and leans toward her. Come with me from Lebanon. They're up on the Lebanon border now. Be my bride. Come with me from Lebanon. We shall gaze together from Mount Amana, from Mount Shenir, and from Mount Hermon, from lions' dens, and from leopards' cliffs. Now, let me go through. He's mentioned 4 mountains: Mount Gilead, Amana, Shenir, and Hermon. Now, Mount Gilead is a mountain east of the Jordan, near the Lebanon border. The 3 mountains, Amana, Shenir, and Hermon, these are summits on the Lebanon border in the Mount Hermon range, overlooking Damascus to the east. And from these mountains you can look down and see almost all of Israel down to the Red Sea. Solomon wishes the girl to travel to these mountain peaks with him, from where she can gaze southward to the whole of his realm. He's wanting to get her to agree to come with him on a honeymoon trip and look at all that he rules over. And he goes on in verse 9, you ravish my heart, my dear. Be my bride. You ravish my heart with one look of your eyes, with that one jewel of your simple necklace. How delightful would be your love, my dear. Become my bride. How much better would be your love than wine, the fragrance of your perfumes than any spice. Your lips, O my bride, drip with sweet nectar. Honey and milk are under your tongue. Your garments exude the fragrances of Lebanon. He sips again and shakes his head slightly. Ah, but you are an enclosed garden, my dear, my bride, a protected spring, a walled fountain. Once again, he's telling her, I can't get through to you, can I? You're resisting me. I can feel it. Yet within, you are an orchard of pomegranates bearing sweet fruit. I know what's inside of you. And henna with spikenard, saffron, calamus, cinnamon, and frankincense, with myrrh, aloes, and all chief spices, a garden fountain, a well of living waters flowing from these streams of Lebanon. Shulamith puts her face into her hands and sobs. Oh, south wind, awake and blow northward. Blow upon this my garden to carry its spiced aromas to him. Bring only my soul lover to my garden to take of my sweet fruits. Solomon chuckles impatiently. I have come to your garden, my dear, my bride. I shall gather its myrrh and spices. I shall eat of its honeycomb and its honey. I shall drink of its wine and of its milk. He turns to his guests at the table. Eat, O friends, drink, yea, let us become drunken with love. And the flashback ends. Scene 4. We've covered 3 of 6 scenes. Let's look a little bit more. We're back in the Jerusalem harem, as in scene 1, but it's a few days later. Shulamith has now been dressed as one of them in harem attire. And she tells the harem brides more of her love dreams of the shepherd. She says, chapter 5, verse 2, I slept dreaming, and my heart awakened to the voice of my soul lover, knocking, calling. Now, does she mean, you'll have to decide, that she was asleep and he was actually knocking on her door and woke her up? Or is she dreaming that he came to her house and was knocking at his door? Off stage, we hear the shepherd's voice. Open to me, my sister, my love, my dove, my undefiled one. I am wet with dew. My hair is soaked with night mists. Shulamith tells her listeners, well, I had put off my cloak. I could not get it on. I had washed my feet. I could not find my sandals. My lover's hand shook the door latch. My heart pounded for him. I arose to open to my soul lover, but my hands dripped with myrrh. My fingers were wet with sweet oils and fumbled at the handles of the lock. At last I opened to my lover, but he had turned and was gone. Psychologists talk about anxiety dreams. Maybe you've had the dream where you're falling. Any of you ever had the falling dream? You don't have to answer me. And then there's the dream of finding yourself in a public place and looking around and then realizing you didn't put your pants on when you left the house. Or you're underdressed in some way. And then there's the dream where you're late and you keep dreaming, I've got to get there. I've got this appointment with me. I'm supposed to preach somewhere, and I have this dream. I can't quite get there. Can't quite get there. And, I'll never get there before it's over with. And then there's the dream where you're trying to do something, and everything is fumbling in your hands. And finally, you get it done, and the person you want to present it to is gone. It seems to me that's what she's explaining, how badly she wants to open the door to him, and yet she cannot quite get it done. My soul had stifled when he spoke. I went out to seek him, but I could not find him. I called for him, but heard no answer. Then those city watchmen took me. They struck me. They bruised me. Those keepers of the walls, they tore away my veil. Now I'm hoping that she's just describing a dream, a nightmare. She opens her eyes. The harem brides nod knowingly. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, when you meet my soul lover, do not tell him of my dreams. Oh, I'm sick with love. And the harem brides lean into her and they say, so now tell us, what is your lover to you more than any other lover, oh, you loveliest woman? What is your lover more than any other lover that you would so adjure us? In other words, they're saying, listen, honey, these other women, they say, listen, all men are alike. All men are the same. You're focused on this one guy. We can tell you by experience, he's no better than anybody else. The best you can do, don't marry for love, marry for position and money. That's why we agreed to be married to the king. It's not a real happy life, but we got everything we want. So what's the big deal about this shepherd you say you're in love with? Why are you so obsessed with him? What is your lover more than any other lover that you would adjure us to keep secrets for you? And Shulamith answers, oh, my soul lover, he shines as a red sunrise. He is the chief among 10,000. His brow is of the finest gold. His locks are bushy, black as ravens. His eyes are like dove's eyes. That's what both the shepherd and the king had told the girl. Your eyes are like dove's eyes. Now she's using that to describe her shepherd's eyes. Reflecting flowing waters, clean as milk, and set evenly. His cheeks are beds of spices, sweet as flowers. His lips are lily petals, dripping with sweet myrrh. His arms are golden bars set with beryl stones. His torso is bright ivory, overlaid with sapphires. His legs are marble pillars set in sockets of fine gold. His face is lovely as Lebanon, excellent as her cedars, and his mouth is most sweet. Now that's where she began at the very first line of the play. Oh, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. His mouth is most sweet. Now she's admitting plainly that she has tasted his kisses. Now all of these words, going back to verse 10 down to verse 16, this is all hyperbole. She's speaking in rich poetic terms. She doesn't really mean that his belly is made of gold or that his arms are made of ivory or whatnot. This is romantic poetry. But it is, I want you to notice this. This is not only romantic poetry, it falls into a genre of poetics known as pastoral poetry. That is, poetry about shepherds and shepherdry. And this is the world's oldest pastoral poem. Hesiod and Homer, and Plutarch, and who was the young poet that followed in Dante's dream? Virgil. These Roman and Greek poets all wrote pastoral poetries, but these began in the 4th century BC. Solomon is writing around the year 1000 BC. In all the literature of the world, we have no pastoral poetry older than this. And it is the world's first romantic pastoral poem, where a man and woman are complimenting one another in exaggerated terms. Now, what this exaggeration, you know, your torso is overlaid with sapphires, you know. Well, if we were going to take that literally, he'd look like some kind of a monster. Yeah. But this is highly exaggerated to show the passionate feeling, the obsession that the shepherd has for her and that she has for the shepherd. And we see Solomon attempting to use some of this imagery when he talks to the girl, but nobody has said any set of compliments yet in this poem as terrific as the compliments that she now says about her shepherd to the harem brides who have tried to tell her, one man's just like another. And she says, oh, no, you ain't never seen this man. Let me tell you how I feel about him. She looks to them, nodding, and she says, yes, he is altogether lovely. This is my soul lover, my best friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. The harem brides say, okay, but where had your lover gone, O fairest of women? To where did your lover turn aside? Tell us. We would have helped you to find him. And she says, oh, my soul lover had returned to his garden, to the beds of spices, to feed his lambs in the garden, and to gather lilies. She closes her eyes, I imagine, as though in a trance. And she says, shaking her head, I feel. She says, I am my soul lover's, and he is mine. He feeds his lambs among the lilies. Now, in her imagination, we hear his voice off stage talking to her. And he's going to give her compliments, just as she had just spoken compliments about him to the harem women. You are as beautiful, O my love, as Tirzah, which is more lovely than Jerusalem, yet impenetrable as an army flying war banners. This is not the first time he will tell her this. You are beautiful, but you are impenetrable. Now that's very important. You nobody can get to you. You're not going to open up to me. And this is going to be very important by the end of the play, that she doesn't open up fully to anybody. She has to fully trust him. Now, what is Tirzah? Do any of you remember the city of Tirzah? Tirzah. Very important in the Old Testament. You might remember that when Solomon dies, the 10 northern tribes break away from Judah, and they form their own nation under Jeroboam. The nation is never put back together again, ever. And they have their capital at Shechem. But after Jeroboam, their rebellious king, dies, and his son dies, they move the capital up to a higher place in Galilee called Tirzah. And for the reigns of 6 or 7 of those wicked kings, the city of Tirzah is where they reign at. A man from Tirzah by the name of Omri. He goes out from there and builds a city on Mount Shemir that he names Samaria. And after that, Samaria will be the capital of the northern tribes. But for quite a while, Tirzah was the capital. And it's way up in the north in Galilee, and so he is using that. Tirzah was one of the 31 Canaanite kingdoms that had been conquered by Joshua. And then the rest of what I said, I've given you some scriptures in the footnotes where you can look it up. But he says Tirzah is more lovely than Jerusalem. Well, that's his home country up in the north. Of course he's going to say something like that. But what gets me is that he tells her, you are as impenetrable as an army flying war banners. She says, turn your eyes away from me lest they overwhelm me. She doesn't want to be drawn in too much. She's very shy, young lady. The shepherd goes on, says, your hair is a flock of goat kids descending from Mount Gilead. Your teeth are a flock of white-shorn ewes, each bearing twins, and none barren among them. Your cheeks are pomegranate halves, falling, behind your four falling tresses. And she must be thinking, do all men say these same things? That's exactly what King Solomon told me. Now he's telling her that. And now he says something remarkable. He shakes his head and says, you know, King Solomon, they say, has 60 queens, 80 concubines, and virgins innumerable. Oh, my dove, my undefiled, you are but one. You are the only daughter of your mother, the choicest child of her who bare you. And the harem brides nod. They say, well, even here, when young women see you, they envy you. Yes, and all we, his queens and concubines, cannot but praise your loveliness. They're admitting to being Solomon's concubines. The shepherd, still off stage, looks at her and says, who are you, my love? You gaze forth like the dawn, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, yet impenetrable as an army flying war banners. Shulamith squints up to the harem bride she's talking to and remembers another dream. I went down to the almond orchard to see the fruits of the valley and to see if the vine had flourished and if the pomegranates had budded. But before I was aware, I met my complicit brothers with the king's charioteers. The brothers say, go home, O Shulamith. And Solomon's men say, no, turn here, come here, let us have a look at you. And Shulamith responds to both groups, her brothers and the charioteers. And what would you want to see in Shulamith? A lewd dance before two armies? Well, that's the end of scene 4. What she is describing, whether this is in dreamscape or these events really happened, she's letting the harem girls know that both Solomon and the shepherd find her impenetrable. She's not going to open up until she's ready to. And the harem brides are finding her impenetrable. They have been assigned to convince her to marry the king, and they're failing at it. Nobody can break through to her. And they have told her so. We can't quite get through to you. How come you're so obsessed with some poor shepherd from up in the north when you've got a king that wants to marry you? And he's even said, you're the fairest of all of us. You're the most beautiful one he's ever seen. Why? What's the matter with you, girl? Why won't you say yes? They find her impenetrable. The shepherd does also, and King Solomon does. There is something more beautiful than her hair, her eyes, her cheeks, her teeth, her bosoms. Something more beautiful is the character that she holds inside. Nobody's going to get to her until she decides who she wants to open up to. We'll finish this next Wednesday night, and I'll have some other comments to add when we do. We've got 2 scenes left. Don't criticize me too much for all the liberties I'm taking with Scripture. I'm just trying to put it in the vernacular in the most reasonable way that I can see it. So, if God sends me to hell for messing up His Bible, I can tell Him, well, Lord, I was at least trying for your glory. Preachers who don't like that should listen to their own sermons. They're always reading a verse out of the Bible and then saying, now let me tell you what this means. And then they'll put it in their own language and talk about their idea of it for 20 minutes. So this is my idea about this beautiful thing. There's a reason this is called the Song of Songs, and she's called the fairest among all women, and he's called the fairest of 10,000. So we'll look at it and get more to that. All right, this episode of Peyton Place is over. Tune in next week, same time, same station. Brother James.